The alien's name was Tal, a towering figure with iridescent scales that shimmered under the dim light of the cargo bay. Beside him, Captain Mara Quinn, a human, leaned against a crate, arms crossed, her expression calm but curious. In the corner of the room, a small, furry creature sat on its haunches, its round eyes fixed unblinkingly on Tal. Its stubby tail wagged slowly, almost hypnotically. "Why is it staring at me?" Tal asked, his voice a deep, resonant hum that carried an edge of unease. His four-clawed hands fidgeted with the hem of his utility vest, an unusual sign of nervousness for his kind. Mara glanced at the creature and smirked. "It just wants food." Tal tilted his head, the movement making the light ripple across his scales. "Food? From me? Why?" "It's called a dog," Mara explained, crouching down to scratch behind the creature's floppy ears. "And it's staring because you're holding its favorite snack." Tal looked down at the metallic packet in his lower hand. "This? It's a ration bar." Mara chuckled. "Exactly. Dogs love anything that smells even remotely edible. To it, you're a walking buffet right now." The dog let out a soft whine, tilting its head as if pleading. Tal took a cautious step back. "It is unsettling. Its gaze is too intense." "Don't take it personally," Mara said, tossing the dog a small piece of jerky from her pocket. It caught the treat midair, tail wagging furiously. "Dogs just have a way of making you feel like you owe them something." Tal observed the exchange, his initial discomfort giving way to curiosity. "It is persistent. Is this behavior typical?" "Very," Mara said, standing up. "Dogs are loyal, stubborn, and ridiculously food-motivated. Kind of like some humans I know." The alien's eyes narrowed, his sharp teeth glinting in what Mara had learned to recognize as his version of a grin. "You're implying I'm not persistent?" Mara raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you're persistent, all right. But not like this little guy. He'd follow you to the ends of the galaxy for a scrap of food." Tal hesitated, then crouched down, extending one of his hands toward the dog. The creature sniffed cautiously before giving the alien's scaled fingers a tentative lick. Tal flinched, but didn't pull away. "It seems harmless," he admitted. "Told you," Mara said with a smile. "You might even make a friend out of him." Tal studied the dog for a moment longer before breaking off a small piece of the ration bar and offering it. The dog devoured it instantly, its tail wagging so hard that its entire body wiggled. "Friendship," Tal mused, watching the dog with a newfound sense of wonder. "It is a strange concept, but perhaps not so unpleasant." Mara grinned. "That's the spirit. Now you just have to survive its endless begging." The two shared a laugh as the dog curled up at Tal's feet, its eyes still trained on the alien, hopeful for more treats. And for the first time since Tal had joined the human crew, he felt a small, unexpected warmth in his chest, a connection that transcended species, built on nothing more than a shared moment and a scrap of food. Chapter 1. The Encounter. The twin suns of Miras forecast long shadows across the jagged terrain, painting the rocky outcrops in hues of amber and crimson. Commander Ilara Voss adjusted the visor of her helmet, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. The air crackled with a faint hum, a constant reminder of the planet's magnetic storms. "Stay sharp, team," Ilara's voice crackled over the comms. "This place has a reputation for surprises." Behind her, a small squad of humans and aliens moved cautiously, their footsteps muffled by the dense, metallic soil. Among them was Koresh, a towering, reptilian alien with iridescent scales that shimmered in the dim light. His species, the Zirith, were known for their sharp intellect and even sharper claws. "Commander," Koresh's deep voice rumbled, "the scanners are picking up a faint energy signature ahead. Could be what we're looking for." Ilara nodded, her hand instinctively resting on the hilt of her plasma blade. "Let's move. And keep your eyes open." As they approached the source of the signal, a strange structure came into view. It was a monolithic spire, its surface etched with intricate patterns that pulsed faintly with a blue light. Surrounding it was a cluster of small, round creatures, each no larger than a human child. Their translucent bodies glowed softly, and their eyeless faces turned towards the newcomers. Koresh tilted his head, his scales catching the light. "What are those?" Before anyone could answer, one of the creatures began to emit a high-pitched chirping sound. It shuffled closer, its gelatinous form quivering with each step. Koresh took a cautious step back, his claws flexing instinctively. "Why is it staring at me?" he asked, his voice tinged with unease. Alara smirked, her hand lowering from her weapon. "Relax. It just wants food." She reached into her pack and pulled out a ration bar, breaking off a piece and tossing it towards the creature. It caught the morsel midair, its body rippling as it absorbed the food. "See? Harmless," Alara said, turning to Koresh. But the Zirith didn't look convinced. His golden eyes remained fixed on the creature, which now seemed to be multiplying as more of its kind emerged from the shadows. "Commander," Koresh said, his voice low, "there are too many of them. This doesn't feel right." Alara's smirk faded as she noticed the growing swarm. The chirping sounds grew louder, merging into an unsettling cacophony. She tightened her grip on her blade. "Everyone back to the ship," she ordered. "Now!" But before they could retreat, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The creature's glowing bodies flickered, and the spire's blue light intensified. A deafening roar erupted from the structure, and the world around them seemed to dissolve into chaos. Chapter 2: The Awakening. Alara's head throbbed as she regained consciousness. The first thing she noticed was the silence. The constant hum of Miras 4's magnetic storms was gone, replaced by an eerie stillness. She pushed herself up, her suit's diagnostics flickering on her visor. "Minor injuries, nothing critical." "Team, report," she said, her voice hoarse. One by one, her squad checked in. Koresh was the last to respond, his voice strained. "I'm here, Commander. But we're not alone." Alara turned to see him standing a few meters away, his claws extended. Surrounding him were the creatures, their numbers even greater than before. But they weren't attacking. Instead, they formed a wide circle, their bodies pulsating rhythmically. "What are they doing?" Alara asked, stepping closer. Koresh shook his head. "I don't know, but it's unsettling." As they watched, the spire began to emit a low hum, its surface shifting as if alive. The patterns on its surface rearranged themselves, forming symbols that neither Alara nor Koresh recognized. Then, a voice echoed in their minds, deep and resonant. "Why have you come?" Alara froze. The voice wasn't coming through her comms. It was inside her head. She exchanged a glance with Koresh, who looked equally alarmed. "We mean no harm," Alara said aloud. "We're explorers." The voice responded, its tone unwavering. "Explorers seek knowledge. But knowledge comes at a price." Before Alara could reply, the ground beneath the spire split open, revealing a swirling vortex of light. From within, a massive, serpentine figure emerged, its body composed of the same glowing patterns as the spire. Its eyes locked onto Alara and Koresh, and the voice spoke again. "You have awakened the Keeper. Prepare to be judged." Chapter 3: The Feeding Ritual. The alien, a creature of shimmering skin that rippled with every shift in the dim light, stood awkwardly in the corner of the room. Its large, obsidian eyes darted nervously to the small, furry creature sitting on the floor. The human, still seated at the table, sighed and leaned back in their chair. "It's harmless," the human said, gesturing toward the animal with a casual wave of their hand. "Just hungry." The alien tilted its head, its bioluminescent patterns flickering in what the human had come to recognize as confusion. "Why does it stare like that?" it asked, its voice a soft hum that seemed to vibrate in the air rather than travel through it. Because it thinks you're food, the human said with a smirk. The alien recoiled slightly, its skin flashing a quick burst of red, a sign of alarm. That is not comforting. The human chuckled, standing up and walking toward the small creature. It let out a soft whine, its large eyes pleading as it pawed at the human's leg. Relax, the human said, kneeling down to scratch the creature behind its ears. It's just a dog. It wouldn't actually eat you. The alien's colors shifted again, this time to a muted blue. You are certain of this? Pretty certain, the human replied, though there was a mischievous glint in their eye. Unless you're hiding bacon in one of those fancy pockets of yours. The alien glanced down at its body, where the folds of its skin formed natural compartments. I do not possess this bacon. The human shrugged. Then you're safe. The dog barked suddenly, a sharp, excited sound that made the alien flinch. The human laughed again, standing up and walking back to the table. It just wants food, like I said. Watch. The human grabbed a small pouch from the counter, pulled out a handful of dried pellets, and tossed them onto the floor. The dog lunged forward, devouring the food with fervor. The alien watched in silence, its colors shifting to a curious green. This creature, the alien said after a moment, is it common among your kind? Dogs. The human nodded. Yeah, pretty common. Man's best friend, and all that. The alien seemed to consider this, its patterns flickering in a slow, thoughtful rhythm. Your species forms alliances with lesser beings? The human raised an eyebrow. Lesser beings? That's a bit harsh. Dogs are loyal, smart, and good company. They're not lesser, they're just different. The alien's colors brightened slightly, as though in embarrassment. I meant no offense. It is simply strange to me. On my world, lesser creatures are not kept as companions. They are managed. Managed? The human frowned. Like pets? Like resources, the alien clarified, its tone matter-of-fact. The room fell silent for a moment, save for the sound of the dog crunching its food. The human studied the alien, their expression unreadable. Well, they said finally, maybe that's why your world doesn't have dogs. The alien didn't respond, its colors shifting to a muted gray. The human leaned forward, resting their elbows on the table. You know, they said, if you're going to stay here, you might want to get used to the idea of animals being more than just resources. The alien's patterns flickered faintly, a soft pulse of light that seemed almost hesitant. Perhaps, it said, though its tone suggested it wasn't entirely convinced. The dog finished its meal and padded over to the alien, sniffing at its feet. The alien froze, its colors flashing red again. The human laughed, a warm, easy sound that seemed to fill the room. Relax, they said. It's just saying hello. The alien stared down at the dog, its eyes wide and unblinking. Slowly, cautiously, it extended a limb, its skin rippling as it reached out. The dog sniffed the alien's hand, then licked it, its tail wagging happily. The alien recoiled at first, but then paused, its colors shifting to a soft green. This is not unpleasant, it admitted. The human grinned. See? Told you. Dogs are the best. The alien didn't respond, but its colors brightened slightly, a faint glow that seemed almost content. For the first time since it had arrived, the human thought the alien looked like it might actually be at ease.